Hi, my name is Tony, and this will be an analysis on folic acid and neural tube disorders. We'll be focusing on two of the most common neural tube disorders in newborns, spina bifida and anencephaly. In spina bifida, the fetal spinal column doesn't fully close. There are medical and surgical procedures that exist to care for those who have this condition, but there is no cure. In anencephaly, the brain and spine do not fully develop. This condition is fatal, and babies are born stillborn. 1 in 1,000 pregnancies in the United States are affected by neural tube disorders, and 4,000 fetuses are affected each year. Globally, 300,000 neural tube disorders occur, and most are spina bifida and anencephaly. We've known about neural tube disorders for centuries, but very little about how to actually prevent them until recently. One of the strengths in this case was a trial that identified that women taking vitamins before and during pregnancy had a reduced chance of having a newborn affected with a neural tube disorder. Later on, folic acid was identified as one of the important vitamins to lead to this reduction. One of the weaknesses in this case was that increasing intake of folic acid was a difficult task. Additionally, not all women took the supplements at the correct times for maximum effectiveness. Often, they would take them too late to have an effect, and the child was born with a neural tube disorder anyway. One of the opportunities in this case is that new genetic screening technologies are now available that give us new ways to prevent neural tube disorders on top of folic acid supplementation. One of the threats in this case is that there is public unrest in some countries about adding folic acid to foods and how it will affect our children in the future. The Food and Drug Administration was one of the primary organizations involved in creating the solution to this issue. The primary issue in this case is that a lack of nutrients leads to neural tube disorders. Folic acid is one of these nutrients that can help prevent these disorders. The issue that's related to this is how we can get expectant mothers and pregnant women to take folic acid and take it correctly in order to have the effect we want, which is preventing more neural tube disorders. The solution that the Food and Drug Administration went with was to mandate grain products to be fortified with folic acid. Products include pastas and breads. The results of this were immediate, a 50% reduction in incidence of spina bifida. Even more importantly, it was a very cost-efficient solution, costing only about 1 cent per person per year. Some alternative solutions include increasing understanding of epigenetics. This allows us to create better prevention tactics by actually understanding how a neural tube disorder is expressed in a newborn. Another solution is genetic counseling for parents that have a genetic probability for fetal neural tube disorders, although this particular solution has more controversy surrounding it. My first recommendation is to educate pregnant women about neural tube disorder prevention, which means telling them about the benefits of folic acid. My next recommendation is physician supervision for expectant mothers to check for whether they have taken folic acid supplements. For the action plan, 1 year is for the adjustment of folic acid fortification for food mandates. This is a longer length of time because we need to give the food producers enough time to actually implement folic acid into their foods. The next is 6 months of production of these folic acid fortified foods and informing the public about these foods and its benefits. Next is 1 year to analyze changes in folic acid intake to see if any improvements are made. This is a longer length of time to give enough data points to analyze. The next is 2 months to generate the data and see if we were successful. One of the interesting things about spina bifida and anencephaly is that there's no real cure to them. So, as a health issue, it's primarily about prevention tactics, and this is something public health is very good at. Something else I think is worth considering is that neurotube disorders, from a public health perspective, share similarities with other inherited disorders such as Tay-Sachs. With Tay-Sachs, there also isn't a cure, and also it affects infants mostly. I think this opens an interesting conversation about how we can implement prevention strategies to newborns. Should we stop the birth in the first place? I don't think so. And I think this avenue requires more research and discussion.